That's not encouraging.
All right. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to call this regular monthly meeting of the Manitowoc Public School District Board of Education to order, and I would ask you all to join us. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, I would ask that we take a roll, please.
Christopher Abel.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Matthew Phipps.
Here.
Keith Shaw.
Here.
Matthew Spalding.
Here.
Carrie Trapp.
Here.
Tony Bostelica.
Here. All right, we have everybody here. And so we will move on to the next part of the agenda, which is public input. Switch to my reading glasses while I try to say your names correctly. Thank you for your patience with that. All right, the first request I have is from Jennifer Hegner. Jennifer? Take it right? Thank you.
Jennifer Hegner, 620 South 31st Street, Manitowoc. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I would first like to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Lee Tennis for his dedication and leadership as an interim superintendent. Through his tenure, Mr. Tennis has diligently kept staff, families, the community, and the board well informed about the ongoing developments within the Manitowoc Public School District. Taking on a new role at the start of the school year is already a formidable task, and assuming additional responsibilities mid-year presents even greater challenges. Mr. Tennis, if you have not already been acknowledged for your hard work and commitment to the Manitowoc Public School District, please know that your efforts are deeply appreciated, even if they sometimes go unnoticed. With that in mind, I want to shift our focus to a concern that was raised during a recent board meeting regarding the discussion of a new middle school social studies curriculum. The term DEI was mentioned, a phrase that has been widely discussed and at times misunderstood. Let's begin with diversity. Diversity in a curriculum would mean providing students with the opportunity to learn about cultures beyond their own. Isn't that something we would want for all students? In an increasingly interconnected world, our students need to be prepared to collaborate with individuals from different backgrounds. Not all students will spend their careers in Manitowoc. Some will work internationally, and we have a responsibility to equip them with a broader understanding of the world. Beyond career preparation, learning about diverse cultures fosters understanding rather than fear of those who are different from us. Wouldn't greater awareness and empathy make our society less inclusive and more unified? Inclusion ensures that all voices are represented in history, not just those of the dominant or victorious groups. For too long, history has been presented from a single perspective, but as the saying goes, no matter how flat you make a pancake, it always has two sides. Shouldn't students be exposed to multiple perspectives so they can form their own informed judgments? Isn't that the very foundation of critical thinking? If we continue to whitewash history, how will students learn from the past and strive to create a better future? In addition, it isn't difficult for students to seek out other sources to find the missing pieces of history. So why not include those perspectives in the curriculum from the start? Providing a more complete and accurate account of history doesn't take away from what is already taught. It simply ensures that students have access to the full story. Equity in curriculum means providing students with a balanced perspective, minimizing bias, and ensuring that all students, regardless of which middle school they attend, have access to the same materials and learning experiences. It also means that students should see themselves reflected in the curriculum, reinforcing a sense of belonging and relevance in their education. As we evaluate this or any other curriculum, we should be asking ourselves, does it present a blatant bias toward one perspective? Is it engaging for both students and teachers? Does it teach students to think critically and analyze sources for bias? Does it promote collaboration and discussion? And more importantly, does it prepare students for the future? In closing, I urge all of us to be intentional and non-political in our discussions. Education is already a complex challenge without the distraction of politicized terminology. Rather than focusing on divisive rhetoric, let us engage in meaningful conversations about how we can best serve our students through a curriculum that is thoughtful, balanced, and forward-thinking. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Ann Holson.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Ann Holson, 4054 Goodwin Road, candidate from Public School Board. I would like to take a moment to share the mission, vision, and value statements of two different organizations from their website as of February 10, 2025. Organization A, the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations. The mission at the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations, INPO, is to promote the highest levels of safety and reliability, to promote excellence in the operation of commercial nuclear power plants. Core values at INPO are the foundation of all that we do professionally and personally. Trusting relationships. We develop mutually beneficial relationships at INPO in the nuclear industry with other stakeholders that support improved teamwork and collaboration. Through these relationships, we improve morale, retain talent, and increase effectiveness. Impeccable integrity. We hold ourselves and others to the highest standards of integrity to foster an open and positive work environment and ethical and informed decision-making. By being honest and dependable, we gain respect and trust. Influential people. We create positive outcomes by the way we interact with others. Unwavering standards. We pursue the highest standards and are resolute in how we adhere to the standards we establish. Continuous learning. We exemplify ongoing learning and strive to maximize our personal capabilities. We advance organizational and industry proficiency and performance through teaching and learning. Organization Manitowoc Public School District. Mission. The Public School District, MPSD, commits to educate, engage, and inspire all learners to thrive in a global community. Vision. Inspiring education, empowering community, unleashing potential. Core values, relationship, compassion, collaboration, dedication, integrity, inspiration. I ask you to think about some similarities. How about some differences? There are bound to be ever-changing challenges faced by this board that none of us can predict. What if each member took a collaborative approach with respect to statutes, policies, and all MPSD stakeholders? Imagine the MPSD vision, mission, and values vibrantly alive during each agenda item discussion in these meetings, so that each student can achieve their own unique potential. These are proven ingredients for a recipe for collaborative success. I respectfully request that each board member address each agenda item with the MPSD mission, vision, and core values in mind. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next, we have Barbara Post.
Barbara Post, 825 Wilson Street, Manitowoc. I'm going to talk about crossroads of transition, and I use the word of because that's a multiplier term for 5th grade and 4th grade. That means we've done this multiple times. It's a multiplication problem. And you can't change the past, but you can change the future. Once again, the district finds itself in major transition mode. This is past practice for the community. A majority of community members are immune to what the district is doing. They don't care because they feel that their voice will never be heard. There is an ever expansive silent majority that believe all the decisions have been made. Do you know the history of this community and all its people? Where they've been and what has transpired? Just in terms of employment, not just MPSD staff, the 80s brought the house down of living wage, and in some cases, it became non-existent. There was massive layoffs, closures, relocation, families broke apart. It was an awful time, and there was no handouts for anybody. You did what you could do. And you have to realize that there were a lot of people in Manitowoc going for jobs, 300 at a time for 6 positions. And you would go, and maybe you were lucky enough to get an interview. Usually you didn't. And you had to go to Appleton, Green Bay, Manitowoc, wherever you can find it. I did that already. There were too many unemployed and not enough jobs. Life would never be the same for some laborers and families. Not enough steady living wage work. Manitowoc's living wage would be forever changed, and so would families. Then I'm just giving you a glimpse of some of these things that affected the school district. The 90s, Riverview County Special Ed closed with no real direction. That was inclusion, and not everyone was on board of that. So you guys can all look this up. It would become Riverview Kindergarten Center eventually, and the preschool was moved from the McKinley building, and eventually that would be taken out too. Not everyone was on board with that. I went to schools, I was hired for kindergarten. I went to schools that were not in the kindergarten center yet, but we were going to be in there, and that was kind of hard. People were not happy about that. The changes that played a role in how the schools got to be whatever they are today, I only gave you a glimpse. One must know the past and its people and how these things affect the community. Once again, you ask for input. The people have questions. Will they be answered truthfully? The people are skeptical. They see the same policies that had no resolve, failing academics, failing buildings, constant staff turnover. They feel that there has been no accountability or transparency. They have given, you have taken. Most of them have limited resources. They need honesty coupled with integrity, true honesty. You want to take their money again, but what did or will they get? They've given them before. What's the promised payout? How was previous money spent? They feel their involvement isn't needed. These are some of the opinions and comments that I've received from community members when I go. I live here, and I'm out, and I ask people what they think, and they say, well, who cares about it? We gave money, we don't have real resources to pay for more, but they want more. A lot of us don't even have food to eat. I mean, people that I'm not necessarily me, but people that my husband and I know. That I received. The community needs to know that it's imperative for them to be informed and engaged, a positive community role model for the students, so that they may also strive to become that way through their education, a positive, successful community procedure. Stay on top of the community pulse. So many people don't care about what's happening out there. And every time I was with a student, I always told them, you only know you. Stay safe, make good choices, be kind, bloom where you're planted. Don't be aware, read the undertow. Every time I come into this place, I read the room. What kind of people are here to listen tonight? That one time I was here, there were students, and people were not acting as good role models. You need to be good role models always, always professional. I'm always professional, and I hope that's what I portray. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you. Next, we have Claire Steppenhagen.
As I said when I spoke before this board the first time years ago, put me in the third graders, I'm fine. Adults, I'm a little leery with, so bear that in mind. There are a few definitions of the purpose of public schools in America, and this is one that I found. Public schools are more than physical structures. They are the manifestation of our civic values and ideals. The ideal that education is so important for individuals and for society that a free education must be available to all. And I emphasize all. In these very, very dangerous times, the Manitowoc Public School District and all public school districts must be a beacon of hope and safety for every student. Every student. No asterisk, no question mark, no parentheses, no what. Every student, no matter what, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sarah Weinberg.
Sarah Weinberg, 2919 JMR Road in Cato, speaking on as president of the Manitowoc Education Association. I just want you to consider when you get to new business item B, the report from the Curriculum Instruction Committee. Number 2, the adjustment of the last day of school for elementary. I'm hoping you consider maybe doing it for the whole school district. So as a staff, we can have professional development. We can help elementary teachers if need be in rendering their rooms for the summer as they possibly take on another curriculum. Or we can better ourselves and prepare for the school year because there's a lot of changes happening and we would like to be able to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. And Braden Meyer.
Brian Meyer. Previously, it was suggested that curriculum does not matter in the success of a district, and that teachers are the sole responsibility of ensuring the district is successful. And while teachers are without a doubt an important aspect of our district's success, and it's necessary to take steps to hire and maintain quality teachers, the curriculum is just as important. You can have skilled teachers, but if the curriculum does not possess the quality it needs for students to be successful, the outcome produced will not be the one desired. It is the same for when those two variables are switched. Curriculum is what provides students with the skills and foundation of knowledge needed to succeed in their adult lives. It sets trackable learning objectives to measure student achievement. This measurement allows their learning experience to be tailored to meet their needs. The framework for accountability is propped up. Critical thinking and problem-solving skills are encouraged and developed to make informed decisions. Creativity and innovation are fostered. Career development is supported. A love of learning is developed. These aspects are all complemented with quality curriculum. If you believe teachers are the only factor in student success, does that insinuate they only started to care about that during the first year of SFA when reading scores finally began to increase? I say certainly not. The same quality educators teaching SFA were here the year before it was implemented when a failing curriculum could not produce sufficient results. I agree with the previously stated sentiment that switching from a successful curriculum to a different one would be unfair to staff. Staff has spent hours of their time and funding has been allocated to professional development in regard to learning a new curriculum, which the ones who have spoken at board meetings have publicly stated their support. Now you want to strip that away from them and the students and parents? Looking at Success for All provides a necessary structure of cooperation and consistency across schools. The Success for All Foundation has even worked to significantly reduce the costs of their program for this upcoming school year while maintaining its necessary components in order to keep the kids learning while aligning with the district's financial goals. Instead of attacking a curriculum that has made monumental progress compared to previous years, we should be bolstering it to advance student success. As the saying goes, if it's not broken, don't fix it. We don't have a for sure answer as to whether a different curriculum will work or be a waste of funding. These are the types of instances when I've witnessed at board meetings, I ponder whether board members are focused on educating children or maintaining political power. I will leave you with these two questions. One, if the Houghton Mifflin DEI infused curriculum was chosen instead of SFA, would it be questioned the same amount by the board members questioning SFA? Two, if a successful curriculum being considered for change was implemented during the time of the current board majority rather than the previous, would it still be considered for change by the ones currently doing so? Thank you.
Thank you. Did that exhaust the submitted requests for public input? Let's see if we have any other requests out there. Going once, going twice. Okay, then we will close public input. Next up, we do have something fairly unique.
Yeah.
We will be hearing a petition to alter the school district boundaries. I believe Glenn Kappelman is here to speak to the petition. Yep. Thanks, Glenn. Come on.
Good evening. We are asking school district boundaries to be moved to encompass our soon-to-be new home, which is actually measured it off of Google Maps as 1,200 feet from the southern border, the current line. This request is to help make sure our son's flourishing, keeps flourishing in the school like he has been. He has a diagnosis of Gleason syndrome, and he makes him look for stability in his life. With him being in the Manitowoc school just for his whole life, he has developed a, so to speak, bond with kids in his class, which is really no small feat, as he tends to gravitate to adults versus kids. This request comes with the best interest of our son's development and with the hopes not to regress into any of the bad behaviors he developed when the schools were shut down during COVID. But with the great teachers of the Manitowoc School District, they have worked through all that, and he has 100% turned around and overcome everything. And when he has fears, the teachers he has now help him and work through it. They understand them, and there is plenty of aides in this Manitowoc School District and great teachers in the special needs program. So we request that you grant this change in the school district for the border, continue the great work for our sons. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Also wants to speak on it? No. No, okay. I'm just finding out the process because it's kind of a unique thing to do. Okay, and so the petitioner gets a chance to speak. The forum is not open to anyone else on the matter, and then the matter is considered by the board. We're going to provide any information on this, or?
Sure. So how this essentially works is.
The process?
Yeah.
Thank you.
If somebody petitions to change the boundaries of a district, it must be mutually agreed on by the boards of education of both districts. In this case, the petition includes 5 properties on essentially the border of ours and the Valders Area School District. We found out about this petition through the Valders Area School District. They'll be meeting, it has to be taken care of in so many days. They'll be meeting on February 24th. We consulted with Valders because this would be a situation where our district would essentially be annexing a piece of their school district. We wanted to make sure that this was a collaborative process. Through that process, the Valders Area School District will be recommending to their board to deny the request. They have some concerns over giving up the property, not only for its tax value, but also because there are some other students in these homes that attend their school district. My recommendation that I have given to the board is strictly based off a simple rationale of, my recommendation to the board is also for our district to deny the request. The reasoning behind that is really three reasons. First of all, this petition would impact more families than just the petitioners. Second, redrawing district boundaries is a much larger conversation that should be more collaborative than just saying that we believe we should take the land of another district. MPSD, and thirdly, MPSD works hard to maintain a positive and collaborative relationship with our neighboring school districts. Just to give you an example, in sort of the tenor here, I would ask you to consider if the shoe were on the other foot, and if a district who was looking to essentially annex a piece of our property would just, vote to do that without consultation and collaboration. It only takes one entity to deny the request for it to not be approved. And therefore, I didn't want to damage the relationship between the Valdez Area School District and the Manitowoc Public School District. Not that I don't have empathy and compassion for the request. I mean, with all my heart, I want every kid who wants to come to Manitowoc to come to Manitowoc. But as you know, last month, the district also set some caps on, our open enrollment for students with IEPs. And we have to follow the letter of the law on that. Because if we didn't, we would be essentially opening it up for potentially many other students. So does anybody have any questions about?
I don't know. I think just to, change the border for one child is probably not the right way to
Hang on.
handle it. Huh?
Do you have any questions for the?
I just want, the question
Before
I
we get into a
have,
discussion.
the question I have, is there any other way to resolve a situation that involves one child without changing the borders? I know we set caps.
Yeah, so legally, what would occur if a student, and Katie can help me with this if I'm wrong, but I think I remember what she told me. If a student were to do an open enrollment request, by law, we would review the IEP and look at it that way. But in the end, whatever level that is, we would have to follow what the board imposed caps are. And am I correct on that?
And if we were to.
But
if we were to make an exception, then it opens up to a ton of litigation, and then it really makes null and void any decision that we've made based on setting those parameters that was passed by the board weeks ago.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Yes, sir.
So, did the student just move into this area, or how? It sounds like they've been attending the district for several years.
Yeah, they recently.
Family just recently relocated.
He's been going here since he's 3K. He's in the 5th grade right now. So next year, which is 6th grade. So 8 years he's been going to this district. We're renting a property in the district right now, and we own property that's in Valdez district. So we're remodeling that house with my parents. And we eventually want to move into that home, but we want our son to be part of Manitowoc's district. Is why we're proposing the boundary lines, because of the open enrollment with the IEP situation.
So my question is I completely understand the district and Valdez says no, and it's more than one family. My concern is if we've been providing a program, a successful program for the young man, is there any way, because he's been in the program, that we could somehow amend the cap as a board. I'm just saying that as a parent of a student with disabilities, it's hard to change programs. And this seems to be an occasion where maybe we could sit down with the elders and go, oh, you know, we gotta work this out for the student, for the good of the student.
So I don't know the answer to that.
I would have to check with DPI, because it's required that our board pass this seat allocation in January. So I would have to check with someone from DPI to see if there can be an amendment or a special exception and what that would entail, and I can do that.
Mr. Fitzgerald, I want to talk off of Mr. Hansen's comment first. So, Mr. Hansen, what you're kind of trying to articulate, I believe, and what I'm trying to articulate is we have an appropriate education that's been met by them already for over 8 years. So that relationship is standing. So I think that's what I'm 100% on with you with that, because we have an existing relationship for over 8 years. That's where I would be coming from. My question to the superintendent is, of those 5 homes, how many of those homes have age-appropriate children in a district?
According to the only one that I know for sure, because I have an email here dated today, that there's a neighbor with 3 school-age children that attend the Valdez Area School District.
For one home is what you're, as of today, one other home?
That is what I know for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Small.
I know one of the concerns was opening yourself up to, like Katie said, opening yourself up to litigation if we were to make an exception. Is there any way to mitigate that by saying it's an exception because of somebody who does work for our school district? Because I do know that she's a bus driver here, now not working for the school district, but I mean, she's been a friend of ours for a long time. She knew my grandbaby before she passed away, and I have a heart for that family. So is there any way that exception could be, you know what I mean, something done in our policies or whatever to where that would protect us from any type of litigation? And that's my question, and I don't know, and I know you guys aren't legal, but can we look into that maybe before we make a decision here?
There are typically not those exceptions, unfortunately. What the district can do is create determinations about who gets on a waiting list in the event that, you know, like, so we have space available in our high school programs. So let's say we have more applicants through open enrollment than we do space availability in our 3 high school seats that we have available. What we can do in those circumstances is we can provide priority to people who have siblings, people who have been long-term residents of Manitowoc and have recently relocated. So we can set priorities as to who gets to fill those seats. There are just not exceptions once we make our space determinations. There really are no exceptions to that rule, which is, I'm drafting an email to a consultant at DPI right now. I know what they're going to tell us because I've had this conversation with a number of families, because they're absolutely heartbreaking conversations. They really are, and there's nothing worse than having to be the messenger and delivering some of those messages. So.
Question, Mr. Shaw?
You said it takes a mutual agreement between both districts. Valdez has already said no.
They're scheduled to take it up at their
They're
meeting on the
going to say
24th.
no, and if one district says no, it's not like.
There is an appeals process for the petitioners.
So do we table this and we wait to see what Valdez does?
So one of the things I think in terms of the timeline, just so you're aware.
Okay.
I believe by the end of February, this issue has to be resolved.
Okay.
If they meet on the 24th, I believe this board is planning to meet on the 25th for a special meeting to review survey results. Therefore, yes, I mean, you could table this.
Well, Valdez has already said no.
No, they haven't. No,
We
that's on the
received
25th.
On the 25th.
So you will know on the 25th what they are doing.
They're receiving a recommendation to deny, just like we received a recommendation to deny. Correct. As well.
So I think we're in the discussion portion now.
Yeah, so if I can get a motion, we can really discuss like crazy.
Okay, I make a motion to move the boundaries for that particular family to accommodate the needs of the student because of the existing conditions.
Okay, so we have a motion.
I have a second.
We have a motion to move the boundaries and a second.
That's open for
I know where
discussion.
you're headed, so if there's any discussion before we go where Mr. Shaw is headed.
So
Yeah.
my discussion would be that we've already heard testimony from the parents that the child's needs, so a free and appropriate education is what the statute says. We already are achieving an appropriate education from testimony from the parents. So if it takes two districts to say no, or only one, I should say, only one, in my views of understanding the betterment of that family, not being partisan whatsoever, I'm looking out for that family, and I would say, let's try to help that family because of the longstanding relationship with that family. I would be voting to help them have the district boundaries moved because of this exception.
Yes, sir, with the second.
To second that and agree with that, because like you said, it takes one to deny. So I'm going to leave that up to Valders. I would hope that we could work something out, and we could maybe, I don't know, maybe this other family wants to come back to talk. I don't know. But if it only takes one to deny, it's not going to be me.
Yeah, here.
Go ahead.
Katie, would that change the situation with BPI and the cap that we?
Yes, if we adjusted our district boundaries and they were part of the MPSD, then they would not need to apply for open enrollment.
Oh, so then the cap does.
So we already have that space available because they're in our district right now.
They would be residents then.
Hang on.
What if we just did it anyway? What would
Like
the
just
DPI do?
accepted the open enrollment.
Yeah, what would the DPI do?
They would tell us that we have to accept every student with disabilities that open enrolls to our district.
How many of those would we get?
50 a year approximately.
And how many do we have?
That we have to deny.
Okay.
When you make your space determination, so this year again, for next year, we said that we would be able to accept 3 students at the high school age that have mild disabilities based on our projected workload formula that we created.
Is there anything in there like for circumstances like this where students been in the district for years and years and then?
Only that in a space that would be available, that they would get priority. So if there was space available at our middle school level for next year, based on what services and supports he has in this IEP, then because we have a longstanding relationship with them and they've been in our district and, mom is, an affiliate employee, then we would be able to push them to the top of the acceptance list if we had space in that program.
So how do they not get in there if they're doing that?
Because we voted 2 weeks ago that we don't have space available. The only space we have available is in our high school, based on numbers and our workload matrix.
They're already here though, right? So
No, they have moved. They're relocating to Valders. So they are here right now, but it will be an open enrollment request when they relocate out of our community. They'll no longer be residents.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm getting at is that like they're currently going to the district now.
But we have to make our projections for next school year. So it's based on all of our projected caseload assignments for next school year. So they're not considered currently in the count for next school year.
Mr. Shaw.
We voted as a board to close the enrollments for staffing reasons, right? We open our orders back up again. We increase students in our capped classes. That's going to cost an increase in staffing. We have to consider that. It's going to cost probably, it could be as a full teacher or perhaps a paraprofessional, depending on the handicapping condition, which I understand. And I, being a former pupil services, I get that. But we cap our enrollments. By doing that was a purpose by every district in the state to save those enrollments from adding greater fiscal responsibility to people flip-flopping districts. An IEP is an IEP. It's a document that can be followed. An IEP can be followed by many, many school districts, competent teachers. I get that. But we voted as a staff, or a board rather, to cap our enrollments. And we're getting a feeling that Valders isn't going to. Well, then I'm still maybe stick to my motion that we table and see what Valders does.
Are you moving that right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second. Because I anticipated that's going early on. So, okay. motions to table.
There's already a motion on the table, and we're in the middle of discussion, you cut me off.
Well, I did give you a chance to speak to the motion. We have a motion to table in a second, which,
Right. Go ahead.
now we just vote on the motion to table, which is not a debatable motion. So if tabled, that would mean we would revisit this after Valders makes a determination.
All right, to table.
So all those in favor of the table signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, say nay. Hearing none, this will be tabled and we will take it up within the deadline, but after Valders has looked at that.
Do we have a meeting after?
Yeah.
25th.
Very next
We have
day,
one
we'll know.
scheduled on the 25th. Yeah.
I'll make sure that all.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
We have an open line of communication with Valders that we can talk to, and as well as the board too, and get some sort of,
You would talk, superintendents would talk.
so I guess the board would, I might have to initiate myself. All right.
Okay, thank you all. Next, we have the consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like removed from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will say I would like to have removed from the consent agenda revised policy 5771, search and seizure. That is my request.
Is that under February policy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's under policies, that's under E, policies brought forward for consideration.
You're pulling all of them, right?
Well, I'm pulling that one from E. If you'd like me to pull them all,
I just thought you
do that.
Sorry, clarify. It's fine.
Yeah. No. Anybody have any other policies they'd like pulled? Anything else? Okay. So you have the rest of the consent agenda. I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
2 seconds, 3. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Then we will take up policy 5771, search and seizure. I did ask for this to be considered separately, and the reason I asked for it to be considered separately is just like last year, when I did not support our search and seizure policy, I believe it is too broad and it presumes things that would not normally be considered reasonable cause. So while I understand, and we all have examples that we have seen of times where we have to act that preemptively, I believe this is too broad, and like last year, I will not support it. Okay?
You don't have any recommendations as to.
No, I would not,
You wanna
I have no
reconsider
recommendations to change. I'm just saying that I'm
Reconsider it.
going to be voting against it, so it had to be pulled for that purpose. So somebody wants the motion to approve it? Obviously, I can't, I'm voting against it. Be absurd.
Move to approve.
Thank you. And a second. Any other?
Any discussion you'd like to have about why you don't want to approve it?
I believe the way that it's written is too broad, and it doesn't provide what I believe at times is reasonable cause. For example, if you just want a simple example out of all of it, it is the fact that we can bring dogs through a parking lot without any reason to have the dogs there. And if the dogs mark on a car, we can bring the kids out and have them unlock the vehicle. And the cause there is the dog marked the vehicle. But there is no cause for the dog to be wandering through the parking lot in the first place, except that they're high school kids' cars.
And they're on school property.
Yeah.
And that's under the purview of the
again,
superintendent.
adults, that would not be considered reasonable cause.
That's because they're on Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, because I see their car as their property.
I would disagree just because I did it for 10 years. And there are situations in a high school with kids that I was so happy to be able to go to the SLO and say, please search this young man or this young woman because they might have something on them. So I think schools are essentially different because there's so many students, and for safety, it's not the same as the real world. You got 1,500 kids in a building, and I have to make sure those kids are safe. And when we search, it was a discussion between the police officer in the building and ourselves, and it worked, and it was good for kids. So I would not support that at all, the change.
There's no proposed change.
Yeah, I'm gonna sentiment like Biff said, it's just, when it comes to safety on a school property, it's like an airport. I mean, so when it comes to searching, we have to consider the safety of the rest of the students. And, you know, it's always under the supervision of an officer there as well. I absolutely agree that the policy is wide for that purpose. And I definitely will vote to keep our schools safe no matter what. And it's different. It is different with a school, and that's why I agree.
Just to speak to your comment, I would encourage you to park on 9th Street or Division. Sorry, I had to say that.
That was
I went
a
to this high
long
school.
walk to my house.
Oh, that's where people park, so that's public, that's the rule. So. Sorry, I had to say that.
I'll call the question.
Solutions.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Just like last year. That's why I stayed out of the weeds last year. All right.
All right.
Moving on from the consent agenda, we have our student representatives report.
So I just have some updates on good things happening at Lincoln because they deserve to be celebrated. So our dance team made it to state and took home a trophy with their 5th place finish in D2 Prom, which was very exciting. And one of the dancers, Caitlin Jansky, made the all-state team, which means she danced a solo, and the judges said she was better than a lot of other people, so it's good for her. Boys basketball senior Braden Steinbecker made his 1,000th point at the game last Friday, and it was also senior night for all of them. So it was a very fun celebration, celebrating his accomplishment and all the other seniors. FBLA competed at regionals recently, and roughly 20 members qualified for state in a lot of different categories. I could list them all, but there's a million. It's impressive how many different areas. The musical had their performances last weekend and put on a very, very great show. They did the Percy Jackson musical. And then our winter dance at Lincoln was rescheduled for March 14th. For anyone who didn't know or see that, we had attendance and DJ issues, so hopefully that'll be resolved for the March date. And then my last thing is not an update, but we didn't meet with the school board committee last month because of finals week, but we do have a meeting this month, and it's next Tuesday, and right now it's just Biff signed up. So as a committee, we were talking today, and we were just hoping to have 1 or 2 more people come just so we can have conversations with everyone. It's great. I love that you're there, but you know, we want to talk to everybody. They are at
9:39.
That's what time our win period starts.
And always, if there's an open spot when it comes, I'll sign up
Okay,
for it.
perfect.
But I like to leave it
open.
You know, I sign up for 3,
Mhm.
and then I wait to see if you have an open spot. I'll
Yeah.
call.
And we're meeting in the library now, not the conference room for anyone that comes.
Oh, if I had known that.
If 4 of us show up, do you have to have a board notification?
If 4 of us show up, we probably have enough to do a bad key notice for one of the committees. So that's why we do the sign up, so that if we can see we need a bad key, we do it.
That's why, yeah, we try
It's not to say,
to make Loris like.
and that's why I made it 3, so up to 3 can be there. Beyond 3, we'll talk so much the students would never get a chance.
Yeah, we have a meeting every month still, so I think 3 is fine for come any of the months. So yeah, but that's my just last thing if you would come. So yeah, that's all I got.
And it won't be snowing that day.
I hope not.
If you'd like to see the dance team.
Yes.
State winning dance team.
Senior night this Friday.
They're playing, or they're dancing Friday night at halftime of the game. So if you'd like to come and watch that, they'll be doing that.
Thank you.
Ellie, is that next Tuesday?
The meeting, yeah, it's next Tuesday.
At 9:30?
Yeah, like 9:30, 9. It's just the weird our bell times, so. I think it's in the, it should say, it says the time in the sign up.
Yeah,
that Chris
it does.
sent out.
And if anybody needs the sign up, whatever you call that thing.
Sign
at
Up
the top.
Genius.
From Sign Up Genius, the link, I can send you the link. I find out about the word. So just let me know. I'll send you the link again. Thank you. Now we have superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. And good evening to everyone. To begin my superintendent's report this evening, I actually have a couple of guests here that I'd like to share with you. I have Mrs. Beatty, the principal at Wilson, and some of her students, who I've asked to come to give a brief update to the board about their buddy system at Wilson Middle School. So, Mrs. Beatty, it's all yours.
Actually, I'm going to invite Chris up, and she's going to share with her kids.
Awesome.
I brought up the spotlight here rather than me. So, you're welcome. You want to introduce yourselves first?
All right, so I'm Miss Kristen. I'm a special education teacher at Wilson Middle School. And I brought along some students here who are participants in our Peer Mentor Buddies group. We just started this group this year, so it's brand new. We're all learning together. This is a small peer mentor support group that fosters relationships between students receiving special education services and general education students. The purpose of this group is really to help encourage language, play, social skills, and relationship building. It also encourages leadership roles while creating trusting relationships between each other. We're really hoping that by creating these new friendships, this can lead to more inclusive opportunities, both in and outside of the classroom. So we brought along, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Owen, and I joined Buddy Group because I knew some of the buddies from elementary and wanted another chance to interact with them.
I'm Jeremiah, and I joined to have the opportunity to interact with others and help them, and by gaining leadership skills, and by leading activities that we do.
I'm Trip, and I like joking around with others during the buddy group.
My name's Irene.
Yeah, here you go.
I have fun doing things with others in the Yeah, so a lot of them say that they just really enjoy the fun activities we get to do together. It gives them kind of a break in their day to just have fun and laugh together and do things that we all like to do.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this group was also recently discussed at our special education parents night, and the parents gave rave reviews of the program and wanted to know how we were going to get it into other schools. So really a kudos to staff and students at Wilson for the buddy group. Just a couple things from my report. I'll be brief. Obviously you have it in writing, so I have highlighted the February as the Career and Technical Education Month. It would be remiss if I didn't boast about our school district in offering over 40 CTE courses in family consumer science, tech education, and business education, as well as that all of our students participate in academic and career planning as part of their curriculum. In addition, we have the strongest school to work program in the area with over 300 students at the high school involved in school-based learning, including 170 youth apprentices. So kudos to our school to work team, our counselors, and all of our teachers who help our kids get ready for what's next, because that's our mission. Referendum planning, you saw that we've scheduled staff meetings at each school. It's very important, vitally important that we share all of the factual information with our staff around our ask of the public for their permission to borrow $25 million. In addition to those meetings, we're working on scheduling meetings with PTOs, advisory groups, service organizations in the community. And we have also landed on scheduling community information sessions. So I want to share those. February 20th at 6 p.m., which we'll be plugging out after this meeting. We will be at the Washington Middle School Auditorium for a presentation and Q&A session. On March 5th, we'll do a 6 p.m. virtual meeting via Google. We'll send that out and put it on our website so that really anyone can join and not have to come in person if they would choose not to. On March 12th at 6 p.m., we will do a meeting at Lincoln High School's auditorium at 6 p.m. And on March 19th at 6 p.m., we will be at Wilson Auditorium for the same. Lastly, I do want to plug also that the Tuesday, February 25th special board meeting will be for the purpose of sharing our district-wide staff survey results with the board. A representative from School Perceptions will be here along with Mr. Nault to discuss those with you and have a dialogue around where our results came in this year. In addition to that, the goal would be that you'll have some of that information ahead of time so you can take a peek at it before the meeting.
That's at 6?
Yeah, yep, 6 o'clock on the 25th.
Yep.
Lastly, a big thanks to Mrs. Beatty at Wilson, Officer Rockowitz, and our district safety coordinator, Nirmana Trilich. I can never get that right. I struggle with that one. Sorry, Nirmana. Who are offering community information meeting on school violence. This will take place on February 12th at 5 p.m. in the Wilson Auditorium, and they will be focusing on the warning signs of school violence. And they'll have of course, anyone in the community is invited to attend because school safety is always on our mind and a top priority. And helping educate our public on that as well. That's all I have, and if people have questions.
Any questions? All right, we'll go to the director's report. You have that before you, so any questions for the directors? The directors are shaking their heads.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can we just get a summary of the report?
A summary of the director's report?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I can start.
Sure.
We had our special, look here, sorry. We had our monthly special education parents advisory committee meeting. That's always held the first Monday of the month. We saw, excitingly, an increase in participation after that group has started to share a newsletter with all students and families, students with disabilities. So that went out to approximately 900 families, and we had a response rate of about 400 people. So we felt pretty good about that. We hosted our first parent engagement event here last week, Wednesday. We had about 11 participants, great conversation. Had a group of staff leaders support that training. Chad Breckert and Julie Severance and Marissa, I'm gonna not say her last name right, but our behavior specialist at Monroe, who under the leadership of Lynette Seminar, just did an outstanding job engaging with that group of families, and that was very positively received. And then we had Joe Sanfilippo came in on our last staff development day, and he is a superintendent from Falls Creek, Wisconsin. Go Crickets, if you want to check him out. There's lots of resources about him, but he's a culture changer. So he met with our building leaders, and it's a great morning of learning and an inspiration for our building leaders.
Thank you.
Some additional items that were shared by the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. We shared out about some optional ELA curriculum that people are looking into. Our Act 20 update, really looking at the excitement that we have finally hit that point where this last Friday, all of our PRPs, personal reading plans went home to parents. We had about 550 plans that went out. And we're hoping to hear back from parents. They have an opportunity to fill out a little bit of information to share about their student, as well as any questions that they have. And then we hope to get those all signed and back to school. The elementary principal team is working hard on professional learning this year around math. And we are diving into, we do our own PLC meeting, our professional learning community meeting once a month, where we look at data that we have collected and talk about effective teaching practices in the area of math. And we also did some of that same conversation around writing this past month. And 100-day plans, we had all of our principals write 100-day action plans in August for the start of the school year. And we are meeting to discuss how that first 100-day action plan went. We'll be sharing goals and looking at how we might want to modify goals or change goals to get us to the end of the year.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Okay, I'll go next.
Sure.
Sure. Heidi, could you talk about the PRP plan a little bit and the 10-week intervention, like how that's going to roll out and what's your plan with that?
So every student that has a PRP is in an intervention. The intervention could be with a classroom teacher. It could be with the reading teacher. And we have, those goals are set based on the student needs. Students in kindergarten are focusing on letter naming, and our students that are in the first grade through third grade are focusing in on basically how quickly they can read words would be the best way to put that.
Can I ask, will it be in groups or will it be individual?
Both.
Okay, so
It will be very rare that a child will be individually working with a person. Because many of our students have similar goals, we group them according to similar goal needs.
Small groups like under 10 or under 5? Or?
I would say probably our kids are in groups more like 3 to 5.
Thank you. And you said it. What else did you say after that?
Where was I at? Let's see.
Pretty much small groups and then doing the 10-week program.
Yes, so, sorry, 10 week, every 10, it is a requirement of Act 20 that after 10 weeks of intervention and progress monitoring that we go back and reevaluate where the student is at and whether or not the PRP would continue, which I'm guessing in many cases it will. For a while.
Is there assessment?
Yeah.
What assessment will you be using?
So we are using the Ames Web Plus screener. That's the state requirement. We'll use that 3 times a year. The next testing window for that is in April, so it's at the end of the 10 weeks. Then we have another 2-week testing window for that. We have additional diagnostic assessments that we have, and based on what the kid's intervention was, or the area of need was, we will do some of that diagnostic assessment again, but we won't have to do the full battery of assessments every single time, because it was pretty extensive the first time.
What materials will you be using in those interventions?
We are using SIPS, SIPPS is the intervention that we're using from Collaborative Classroom. That's for our students that have the most intense needs. And we are using UFly and Heggerty as the main resources for other students. We do have additional additional interventions that can be used by reading teachers based on student needs. But those are the main ones.
Anything else about that?
I don't think so.
Is it pretty heavy on the recording side of it for extra load on you guys at all? Or,
No,
the teacher?
the weekly progress monitoring is really, we've got a pretty simple system for it. I mean, I think that assessing the students for that progress monitoring at the end of the week might take 2 minutes per student to actually do the monitoring, and it might take a minute to put it into Infinite Campus. So maybe 15 or 20 minutes max for that once a week.
Is there going to be meetings at all between staff to try to cooperatively try to figure out solutions or data, how they're working together, or how things are being implemented, that it's communicated at all levels?
When the reading teachers were done with their assessments, they met with classroom teachers to help them with guidance on what interventions might be best and what progress monitoring might be best. Now that we're up and running, it's the expectation that we would review those at the 10-week mark, but I would anticipate that if teachers recognize that a student's not doing well, that the conversation would happen sooner.
Between staff or student and teacher and parents?
Between reading teacher and
classroom teacher,
and then the parents get that notification of the 10-week mark.
Okay. But more individualized, not, I'm asking, will the reading teachers and the classroom teachers collaborate on strategies or anything
Yes.
like that? Yes,
absolutely.
During professional development or?
Yes, grade level meetings.
Okay, that's what, like on an individual student basis?
Yes.
Okay, that's what it is. Thank you. That's all I have for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I provided you with some information regarding the Y staff report. And the DPI Y staff report is a report where we submit to DPI all of our teachers in their teaching assignment. So if they're teaching social studies or math or whatever, and DPI takes that information and matches it up with their license certification. When there's a mismatch, it pops it out as an error. So we have about, as I was just looking here, about 650 employees that are required to have a license. We ended up having about 70 errors the first round. And what I mean by that is that they provide us with this report, I think it's about mid to the latter part of December. So of course the reasons that this happens is some people just, the license expired last June, forgot all about it. So they have to go in and apply. Other person, maybe the assignment doesn't match up. They're teaching 4 sections of math and 1 social studies, and they don't have social studies cert. Another one is their assignment doesn't match up because of grade level. They're certified 1-6, but they're teaching 6, 7, 8. Another one that popped out a few times this year was there's this thing called a lifetime license. Well, it's not truly a lifetime license, it's a 5-year license. And you call up and say, hey, your license expired. I have a lifetime license. Well, I got news for you. So they expire every 5 years.
They call that a tax.
But sorry.
Yeah, you get that.
So the good news is we went after this and we're down to about 3 employees now that I expect to bring resolve the situation this month of February. We did have 2 people who did not renew last July. One resigned in September and 1 resigned in October, and now they're gone. So we can't read about that, those 2 situations. So the bottom line is, I tell you what, in all my years in HR, and I put this in here, this has been a good outcome. It's a really good outcome. So I'm pleased with the response of our employees to take care of business.
Anything, Mr. Null?
No? Okay.
Yep. I'm sorry. You can forget about me, but that's okay. First part is the review is up for the audit. The next finance and facilities meeting, we will present the audit at there. So there'll be a presentation of the audit at the next meeting next week, Thursday, I believe it is. Business office working through some software issues. reporting Wisconsin retirement with error. It was a software issue with all districts, not just Manitowoc School District. No employee or employee data was affected by it. However, there was an error of $93,000 that was paid to Wisconsin retirement, but it was all taken out. So the money was taken out correctly. And workers' comp experience is problematic. We're working on that. They've added a staff person to monitor it. However, we have, it's an average of 3 years, and it's prior 3 years. And there's 1 year in there that was extremely high, about 2 or 3 years ago. And so we got to run that mod out. So in essence, a good example, our mod is 1.8. Average district, when we're talking school districts, is 1. 80% above the average. And we're trying to address that issue and get people back to work as soon as possible. Business office working on human resource update the salary schedule. We were meeting a few times, and we're going to come back with some proposals about salary increases. Right now, the CPI that they're using, the CPI-U, is at 2.95%. So that's what we're looking at. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so we move now on to new business, and we start with the report out from Mr. Hanson for the Personnel and Policy Committee.
A very short meeting. You went over the policies for tonight. I'll just make one comment. We did change one policy that was about the social media for the school district, and it was a unanimous vote that we have Facebook accounts, Instagram, whatever account we have, we will not allow comments on anything that is posted there. We all know through Facebook and those kind of things what can happen when people start posting things. So if somebody doesn't like it, they can take it and do whatever on their personal page, but the public school district page shouldn't have some of these comments and language that we see on other social media accounts. So that was the only change. That it was a good discussion and it was unanimous. It was good to hear or have the board agree on that, committee agree, because there's really not a place for that kind of language in our district. So
Yeah, we kind of agreed that we have a social media it's more informational. It's a bulletin board for us to be able to get out that information, not to have these conversations. If they want to have those conversations, they can have them on their own pages.
we kept our meeting short so Kerry couldn't have his. Yeah, well, we had it.
So what we have, so now, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so now we will move to that meeting, the report from Mr. Trask.
What did we have? We had a half an hour? Yeah, we had a half an hour and fairly big issues. But we did have I thought, a pretty thorough discussion of the discontinuation of Success for All for the third year. And I want to say that there's a recommendation from the curriculum committee, which was supported by a 3-to-1 in favor vote, that we do discontinue Success for All for the third year for the reasons that are pretty clearly stated in this document here. That number one, it cost us $3.4 million for 2 years. Number two, that we don't have any ESSER funds left. Number three, that doesn't line up appropriately with the Act 20 requirements, and that reading faculty are already in the process of considering other curricula that will come in at a price of around $800,000 for 6 years. So it just seemed to me and to other people who voted in the 3-to-1 majority that we just can't continue to afford this. We don't have the money to pay for it. And that we recommend that we cease beginning next year, having success for all. Now, the thing is that that we have really gained a lot by success for all. There's no question about that. And a lot of the things that are left over, even when it leaves, are the coordination, the cooperation, the making things uniform, the collection of data, and having really methodology now to really deal with the reading problem in a really constructive way, regardless of what curriculum is adapted for going forward. So I because it's recommended by the committee, I present it as a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, so we're going to the vote on this right? I mean, we're skipping over right now, right?
No.
There's discussion now.
Now it's discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think we were getting to that. I thought there was just the minutes we were talking about here or whatever. Is this actually the motion? Okay.
No, he's on number one, success for all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha.
Yeah. Actually, 10B1.
Okay.
Yeah.
10B1.
I would like to speak to
Am I taking it?
I can field it or you can field it.
Okay, you do it.
You
You're
made the
chair.
motion, so,
Yeah.
okay, so we have a motion and a second to end the contract with Success for All. Any discussion? And I'm sure there's going to be some.
Yes. I just wanted to start by addressing some of the things that Carrie said, how much we've learned from SFA and all the good things that we have gotten from SFA. We all know that it's working. I mean, he even said it. The two first things that he said on there had to do with cost. And I know that we've got a letter from a lady who liaisons with us through SFA, and they worked last month to drop the cost down to $71 per student. I believe it ends up being $153K, which is just a little bit over what you were talking about before. So the cost itself is should be null and void, to be honest with you. Everybody that I've ever talked with and interacted with, students, coordinators, teachers, it's literally an emotional response almost every single time when I see them talk about the progress these students are making. I have a hard time even considering walking off the edge of the cliff, which is exactly what we'd be doing, because you've heard them say that we've been looking into or we've been considering new curriculum. There's no decision. We have no idea which direction we're going. I have a hard time getting rid of something that's working in a manner just to save money when they've actually stepped in to help us save money now. To go something that we have no idea is going to work or not. And the emotional response is because this program is working and these kids are learning. We have so many other places that we can cut budget and we can cut money. We've given them options. We haven't taken any steps towards relocating district office, which we talked about. We haven't taken any steps towards consolidating schools. There's money to be saved. I just think it's not within curriculum and student success and achievement. If somebody was to vote to get rid of this, I would only ask that we change the motion to exactly what it is, and that's a motion to, forego student success for nothing. No idea where we're headed with this. This is just crazy. I'm done.
Mr. Lestel, and then you, sir.
How much is it going to cost us to terminate that contract early?
$0.
What about the money,
Are you-
equipment
Are you sure about that?
and the materials?
100%. Okay, because the reason I'm asking that is I've talked to staff that have told me otherwise, so I don't know if they're misinformed.
No, I have also two directors who sat through all those meetings and conversations with SFA that they could attest to that there is no fee for terminating our contract early.
Okay, so we can end the contract, forego that last year, and you're saying it would cost us $0 to do that? There's like no, like,
nothing.
They won't charge it.
Correct.
Right. I'm just making sure that.
Yep.
Okay.
He's asking what you're saying.
Yes. All right, so the next question I had is, I know we've made a sizable investment in this program. And with that, there's a lot of, I guess, ancillary materials that come along with it. What are we gonna do with all that stuff?
Heidi, do you want to address that question?
We hope that we would be able to, we have things that are still in packages. We would hope that we would be able to return some of those things. Typically, at the end of any curriculum, when you are no longer using it, it becomes disposable. There are things that we would hope that we could keep and use. The reality is that many of the texts with SFA are really older versions of things, and we had to work hard to find books because they're not in publication anymore. So there are definitely resources that we could use in book rooms and things, and then there are resources that we would dispose of. Very much like the last curriculum, you know, you have the things and you invest in them, and then the new curriculum has resources that go with it.
Also, depending on the amount of that's left, we could also consider trying to sell them to other districts that may need them as well, as long as they're in good enough shape.
Yes, sir. I didn't want to miss something.
Oh, I thought there was somebody going before me, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I forego. You can go first.
Did we have gains? Yeah, we did. Do other reading programs, other districts in the state of Wisconsin have gains? Yeah, and some are better than ours. And it was programs that didn't cost as much money. When this whole process started, the reading curriculum committee of teachers picked out a program that was $800,000. This was $1.4 million to buy. So we lost $600,000 buying this program over the $800,000 program that most of the schools, not just in Wisconsin, but in the country use. If you look at SFA, and I researched it again today, and the numbers are the same. There's roughly 211,000 schools, not districts, but schools in the country. SFA is used in 1,000. That's 0.004% of the schools that use this program. Used to be more, but most schools have moved away from it. There were Wisconsin schools that used it in the early 2000s. They've moved away from it. Of those 1,000 schools that still use SFA across the country, only half use the whole program. That's 0.002% of the schools in the nation. And that's because the K2 program is pretty good with phonics. But there are other programs that do phonics pretty well also. If you read the data and you read the test results, there aren't any test results anywhere that I could find that blow the other programs away. The phonics is good as other programs. But one of the downfalls, if you read, is the kids who start excelling and reading better are held back. Their scores do not increase as much as other reading programs because the program wasn't designed for kids like that. The program was designed for a certain type of student, and that whatever is needed in reading to get them to excel and read and increase at faster rates is not part of SFA. And that's something I've heard from teachers and parents, that there are kids that should be in reading groups much higher, but they can't. that it's not allowed to do. So are we holding kids back on the other end that aren't learning to read? We can save some money on materials. We got that. We could save $1.548 million just in salaries that are used for SFA that weren't there before. 1.5 million. We need to send a message to taxpayers. We're asking them for money to fix our schools in a referendum. We need to send a message that we're looking at everything to start cutting costs. Are we going to take all of those people currently doing SFA and get rid of them right away? There's probably other places we can use them, but we could still save probably $500,000 in salaries, at least. $500,000. This was never brought up by the past superintendent when SFA was talked about. He talked about the program, and I remember sitting here and all of a sudden we had to vote on coaches. Why wasn't that in the planning stage? Why wasn't that part of what we were being told about this program? The program has some good qualities, but the program is expensive, has cost us a lot of money in this district, and it's no better than a program that is used by other districts around us. So why are we spending that extra? I'm not taking money out of curriculum and making it worse. I'm being wiser with the cost of buying something. If I don't need something as expensive as SFA to get better results, why am I buying that? But I could be buying a reading program that's just as effective and save the taxpayers of this district some money. 40% increase over the last 2 years for some people in school district taxes. And it's not going to get a lot rosier unless we start looking at stuff like this. This has to change. And there are programs out there just as effective, maybe more effective, that will not cost us this amount of money. The other thing that we have to remember, SFA is not certified in the state of Wisconsin. It's not a certified program in this state. And if you go online and you start looking at states and how they rank educationally, we go somewhere from 10th up in every organization that rates educational effectiveness. So I think the state of Wisconsin has a pretty good grasp on what is effective and what isn't effective. And they're telling us this isn't a program that we should be using. So I'm all in favor of looking for the next program. The only thing I would wish that would happen in this process is somehow we find a way for the educators to get the time they need to dig into this. When my lovely wife was teaching in Two Rivers and they switched to a new reading program, the district said, in-service days, this is what you're doing, nothing else. You're going to work with the people that help train you to get this program off and running. And that's what we're going to have to consider in this. But as far as keeping the program, this has run its course. It is not as effective as other programs, and we can save money without affecting the quality of our reading programs. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hanson, for your comments. I want to start off by saying that that's kind of how this curriculum was structured. There's a lot of front loading, so it did cost a lot of money to do the training so that the staff and the teachers and the whole schools were on board and understanding. And that's why it took so many resources to do that. So that's kind of why we had such a high price tag in the beginning. And I think it's kind of interesting to me how we all knew about Lucy Calkins not working, and we kept that program just keep on rolling, even though we knew it wasn't working correctly because it was getting away from phonics. But now that we subscribe to this curriculum, and yes, it was very expensive on the front side from all the training to prepare the staff and teachers and the whole schools for a complete change. And one thing I wanted to make sure that didn't happen, or I was trying to not make it happen, is that I know the culture of the school, when you have a change, it affects everything so much. And then the staff gets so fatigued from the change. It's like a burnout. Like what are we gonna do this year? Let's reinvent the wheel. Let's grab a new ship and let's see if it sails. And it seems to me now that we're gonna be voting on, right now in a couple minutes, we're gonna vote on dumping a curriculum without replacing it. And that just seems asinine to me that we would remove something before we have a better or a more effective way to do it. So that seems backwards to me. And then I want to move into the testimony from the parents that say, hey, my child is loving this. It's making them engaged. It's really turning over a new leaf for them. And why would you get rid of this? Why would you get rid of this? So that's on the parent side that I've gotten comments about, this is working. Don't change this. And then from a staff perspective, like I said, about the burnout and the turnover, like it just wears a person out when you get on board about doing something and you buy in, and then all of a sudden it comes from the top saying we need to change how we're doing things again because it's going to be too much money. When there was an operational referendum that was passed, and now this isn't just about money, this is about investing in your staff for the professional development so that they're on board and understanding continually, especially if there is a turnover. So I understand about saving money. I really do. I'm quite trying to be fiscally conservative about things. But when I see the payoff going to our direct staff and the results to our direct students, it's just, the comment about neighborhood schools and about an extra $1 million for each neighborhood school. Well, I would say I'm going to put my merit on, I'd rather give that money and have it most effectively used for the students and the staff directly. So that's where I think the money's going, but I understand. So the program was very heavy in the beginning. That's what I want to say. And we're on the third year, so we'd be canceling the third year. That would be like the cheapest year. I think that we should only fulfill the contract, and then it would give us time to regroup, reorganize, get understanding with the Act 20 requirements that the state was behind in already about reading proficiency. Why didn't we have this from the state 3 years ago? Why didn't they have a roadmap for everyone? No, you just keep with Lucy Calkins. We'll figure it out in 2025, and then we'll mandate it down your throat. One last thing, not maybe the last, but the SFA was giving us a cooperative accountability. And I said that in the committee meeting. We were able to have each school working independently, but then ultimately being held accountable with each other, with the exact data points and where things were coming from. We understood that we were on top of it about having children needed incentives or extra time or having the reading blocks the way they were. It was a good thing. And there was still mistakes, but it was a good thing. So to end a program on the third year when we've had such gains seems silly to me. The staff fatigue, the parents wanting to do this, students enjoying it, it just doesn't seem smart for me to just end it on the premature in the second year when we have all the materials. And essentially the biggest cost is going to be investing more money into our staff for more training. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is this?
I got a question.
Okay.
What does the investment in SFA look like if we kept it that last year versus going into a new curriculum? Do we know that with the new figures that we got?
Are you talking about the total for the curriculum or all of it?
Last year.
What's the year?
So
the year that we're
talking about,
terminated?
are you referring to the lower price given the email that you received?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm referring to, I guess, the total cost and of SFA, like for just the curriculum piece and whatever else we needed to execute year 3, as opposed to one of the alternatives that you guys are considering.
Yep. Good question. What I would say, first of all, about the what seemed to me as attempted to appear as a discounted rate that SFA offered for the third year, knowing that we were having budgetary issues, which I greatly appreciated. However, our team didn't consider that option because it wasn't a discount. It was a reduction in services, which included essentially getting rid of some of the very best parts of SFA, which is having coaches here on site helping our staff. That's an amazing part of the system, which we've benefited from. But the idea that I would you know, go to the car dealership and look at buying a new car and, you know, finding one that I really like for 30 grand that has all the things that I want. And then, but I tell them I can't afford 30 grand. I can only afford 20 grand. Well, you know what will happen then is that I won't get all the things that I wanted, the bells and whistles. And so that really wasn't something we wanted to consider, because the reduction in the services that would be provided in terms of professional development to the staff really is a cornerstone of what makes this successful anyway. So getting rid of that to us was a non-starter, that part of it.
Okay, so assuming that the staff figured it out 2 years into it and we're able to continue that same track that they were on, how much would it cost?
Are you saying without having the coaching?
Yeah, like if we just compared that pared back option they provided, what was
Heidi,
that?
do you have that figure in front of you?
You looking, is that in board book, that thing that you're looking at right there?
Yes.
Where's that at in board book?
It's on the agenda for today. Under the X.V.1, success for all, contract towards the bottom.
Got it.
And I guess while you're looking that up, you know, I know there's a lot of talk about cost and investment, which I can appreciate. You know, however, I think some of these numbers are a little bit misleading because, I mean, were these all brand new positions that we created just for SFA? Or,
Yes, they were.
so none of these people were here. We hired an extra 15 or 20 people above and beyond what we had.
Yes. We, actually, most of the people that are in those positions are some of our highest paid teachers in the district. Because they are people with experience in those positions. Two of those positions are literally our two highest paid teachers. So it's very expensive, that piece of it.
Right.
But yeah, one of the things that.
If I could just add on real quick, and again, I totally appreciate the conversation on cost. We have to be cognizant of that, but I would like to remind everyone here that, you know, we spent a long time, years and years, teaching curriculum that wasn't viable, right? And we saw it wasn't working. So that costs millions and millions of dollars. So what I'm going to suggest, again, just giving a different point of view here, and I'm certainly open to seeing how this process plays out and, you know, determining what's best for the district, but maybe it's possible we've just had the wrong structure for a long time, you know, because I think, you know, maybe it's possible the staff that we had just didn't have the right tools, the right training, you know, to be successful, right? So I would just like to encourage everyone here to keep that in mind as we go through this process and not be so quick to close the door on a program that's proven to be successful in our district. It's produced the best results we've had since 2015 in single year growth in reading proficiency and also math, amazingly, right? In almost 10 years, right? So part of that, I believe, is that there are some unique challenges that Manitowoc has with our demographic, right? And if you guys recall, when we vetted SFA, there was lengthy discussion on that, right? And one of the things that really appealed to me was, you know, looking at populations with high English language learners, economically disadvantaged families. SFA has a track record of working really well in those communities. So my point again, just as we go through this process, let's be open-minded to the possibility that maybe for years and years, when we spent millions of dollars teaching curriculum that wasn't getting the job done, we finally got one that showed us some really promising results in 1 year. Our staff did a great job learning a new curriculum, and now we're potentially asking them to, hey, let's learn another one now, right? That's a big lift, and I just want to make sure that we're all keeping that in mind.
So did you get the answer to your question?
No. Please.
I mean, I don't have a number for you, like right off the top of my head.
Well, I think we need to know that number if we're going to vote on this.
Well, I think that we've given a lot of information, and I feel like the last thing that we sent out, like if you want me to get a number, I'll just need a little time to put like an actual number to it. But the one point I want to make that continues to not be part of the discussion that I think is one of the biggest things for me is that we are purchasing a very expensive product. And we are looking at having to, it's a 90-minute reading program. And next year, and for the rest of this year, we are taking out 30 minutes of that 90 minutes to add in things that don't exist so that our students can, because of this stuff with Act 20 and the science of reading and the PRPs that all of these kids are on, we have to now bring in additional curriculum. So we're taking out of this thing that we're buying and we're saying, this is the product that we have. We are removing time from that product. And next year we'll have to do even more of that. And so to continue with something and paying this price that we're paying and then having to supplement that 90 minutes, which means taking out part of it. So what part do you take out? Do we decide that as a whole school district or is that school by school? So I just think that what's hard about this is it's a multi-layered issue. There's the financial piece. There's the burden on the teachers to have to learn a new curriculum. But no matter what, they're going to have to learn some new stuff because we now have a program that has holes that we have to fill. We recently heard a number that our kindergarten students are 75% proficient. At the same time, I have 76% of our kindergartners have a personal reading plan. So that's contradictory data. And those are all of the things that make this complicated. So I just think there's a lot more to it than even just the budget, the complication of a product that we can't use the whole product. We have to modify the product that we're paying a lot of money for. So I just think there's a lot to this. At the end of the day, it costs more to do SFA for sure. There's no doubt about it.
I think it's important to remember too that when SFA is sharing the internal data, it's internal curriculum data. So when we look at it compared to Ames Web, which is our mandatory screener, we look at it compared to FastBridge, and we look at it compared to Forward Exam, there's much more modest growth when we're looking at it compared to our state and nationally normed assessments. So we have to be careful about just relying on that internal curriculum data and make sure that we're taking the full picture of when those numbers are shared. To Heidi's point about the kindergartners, internally, SFA saw growth for 76% of students. But when we're looking at our state screener, we don't have that number. We have 57% of our students grades K through 3 have to have a personalized reading plan. So when we have to compare on those norms, we're having very different, much more modest growth than when we're just looking at the SFA internal data.
Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, thank you. Very patient. No problem. Thanks to Mr. Knoll, I had an opportunity to spend 6 months at Washington Middle School last year.
Thanks didn't sound.
No, that's all sincerity. It was a tremendous opportunity, but I think that I have to share a conversation that I had with two of the national reps for half hour to 40 minutes. The national reps that had Wisconsin as their territory from SFA. And that conversation was extremely detailed. And these two wonderful women shared with me, they said, we're surprised we're here because SFA does not do well in states where your state test is based on Common Core standards. Wisconsin's state test is based on Common Core standards. SFA does well in states, and they really show gains, Kansas, Ohio, wherever they were, North Dakota, that states are not aligned with Common Core standards. So we talked about that a little bit, and I talked about these percentages that I kept seeing all over the billboards. We've raised our scores 12%, 15%, 14%. She said, you need to be very careful with that. She said, they are level tests. Yes, when SFA tests, they test at a level. If a student does not do well on that level test, they get a chance to correct it. The scores that go into Infinite Campus, that all these, we went up 10, 15, 20%, were all based on corrected scores. I'm an advocate of that as a teaching tool. I think it's a tremendous teaching tool. And I wrote a memo to Mr. File and asked him to be honest when reporting these scores, saying that there's two scores here, the beginning score and the corrected score. I think the public needs to hear that the beginning score of the program is different than the recorded score that is collected for data. I asked him to report those two scores. It did not happen. Again, his choice. But I also think that we need to state we're a district that wants kids to come to us, but we're a district that doesn't have a state recognized reading program. We say, come back to Manitowoc. We have a superintendent that's sending out many, many flyers to come back. What can we do to attract you? Yet we don't have a reading program that is on a state voucher, a state list of accepted reading programs. That's kind of ironic to me. Come to us, we're strong academically, but we don't have a state recognized reading program. I find that a little weird. The other thing that bothers me about this is when we take a look at this whole SFA. I remember Mr. File writing a letter to the state asking them, it was pretty a pleading letter, asking them to please reconsider their position on SFA. Will you allow Manitowoc to get the resources we need, do the funding, get some money back on our resources for the K-4 program? And the state said, no, we will not reconsider. And the letter was well done. We all read it. The whole community read it. The state then said, no, again, we will not sanction SFA. It's a powerful tool. It's a state organization. Master's degree, PhDs in curriculum and instruction, they regulate what is applicable for success. And we're sitting here saying, no, we're not going to listen to you. I have difficulty with that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. DeQuick.
Real quick.
Please.
Would you suggest that we would have kept the third-year contract if Act 20 wouldn't be mandated? I know that's a
No, I feel
hypothetical
like, I feel like probably, yeah, because it
Thank
wouldn't have come up as like this
because it's too
big
much right
conflict.
now. There's too many variables that are making it unviable to continue down that road. Is what. And I understand what you're saying, and how you articulated it, I think was very respectful and very honest. There's just too much going on right now with that mandate from Act 20. And if we didn't have that Act 20, I think we could have adjusted it a little bit differently.
Yes, and I think ultimately I don't like that we would be spending the money on something that we're not be able to utilize the way it's supposed to be used. It seems wasteful.
That's on that side of it, but I'm saying, okay, you answered my question.
Hang on. I've been really patient, okay? And I'm going to reiterate some of the things that some of you have said. But I want to start by saying two things of personal experience. First of all, you would not believe how many people I have spoken to in the last week on the phone and in person as I go about my hijinks in town, where they say, so you guys are getting rid of SFA next Tuesday. And I say, not really. Because until we have something that replaces SFA, SFA is what we're doing. In that way, I would echo absolutely Mr. Phipps' concerns that you normally have a curriculum before you don't have a curriculum, so that you don't have a hole. And honestly, for me, that is a concern. It is a concern I expressed last Tuesday for some very strong reasons. One of those reasons is because, listen, I completely get the economies of this thing. I really do. But I also completely get the helping kids read. And if we're going to talk about efficacy, having dedicated, focused people in the buildings that are looking at the performance of all the kids and putting kids together in groups that put them in the classic teacher expression, the zone of proximal development. That's what makes it successful. That doesn't mean that it's perfect. I am the last person that you will find that will say 90 minutes on reading is a good idea. I taught third grade for a decade and a half, I can tell you third graders would string me up if they had to read for 90 minutes a day. You know, I would honestly be afraid to ask them to do that. So there are ways that you vary that and there are ways that you fix it, but there are things we can fix. 90 minutes at the junior highs is clearly affecting both our mandatory and our optional electives. That's a concern too. These are, honestly, what I am about all this is nervous. When you talk about materials, I'm very concerned about materials because when we switched over to SFA, I will tell you, nobody was more heartbroken than I was to see the dumpsters going to schools where teachers left a 20-year collection of books that aligned with the topics, the interests, the ideas, the subjects, and the approachability for their grade level in their classroom. I left over 600 truly great books for all different kinds of interests that third graders pursue in my room. When we switched over, so much of it went in a dumpster that it just truly nauseates because it hadn't been approved by that program. They don't need to be approved by programs, they need to be approved by teachers. And that's the truth. All the materials we now have for SFA, if we're not going to use them, we have a moral responsibility to get them to somebody who will, but we also ought to be checking with our facilitators and our administrators and saying, hey, what of this stuff can work? I will not support any program that doesn't use that model of somebody who is coordinating the approach to reading across the building, somebody who is working constantly to match kids and to make sure that kids are moving forward all the time. Could it be the reading teachers? It sure could. Could it be our title teachers? It sure could. But I'm telling you, with 550 PRPs right now, I think they got plenty on their plate. So all I'm saying is a really good SFA facilitators are really, really good. And I don't care what they cost. When they're that good, you spend the money on people like that. And I've seen that in more than one school. So, and those people are now worried because they're saying, what am I going to do now? What I want them to do is what they're doing now. They don't have to do it with SFA. But for heaven's sakes, let's make sure they're doing what they do best, which is make sure kids get the best possible instruction for reading, matching kids to teachers, matching kids to interests, matching kids to level. Okay, so it is ultimately, if I can just finish, it is ultimately a question of costs versus benefits. If we can get the same benefits that we got from SFA with another program, then great. The truth is, regardless of how you vote today, if we see 3 programs and we don't find any of them offer the benefits that SFA did, we can vote them down. And we're still going to be with it until we find something that can do what it does or better. I know letter sound, kindergarten needs to be fixed. It can be fixed within or separate from SFA. And there are other things that need to be fixed too. They can all be fixed, or we can find a better program, but still use all the critical things that we learned. As I said last Tuesday, I don't want to repeat myself, all the critical things we learned from SFA, we can use going forward. Okay, and I'm certainly not going to support something that doesn't do that.
I just wanted to add on, we were talking a little bit about the discrepancy with the SFA data in some of the scores. The FastBridge data, that's nationally normed, right? And I would just like to point out that looking at the data that was reported back to the board in December of 24, we saw a district-wide increase of over 9% compared to other districts across the country. And the other thing I'll point out with that is that, that includes McKinley, which was -9, right? And they weren't even using SFA, so I don't know how, we'd probably be over 10% is my guess if we didn't have them in there. But my point in sharing that with you guys is that it showed growth, right? It's significant growth, and that's nationally normed data. So if we just say, hey, we don't want to use the internal data, fine. And, you know, the forward data, honestly, dude, these guys at DPI, you know, they're constantly changing their minds. Like, who knows what they're gonna do? They could change it next year and we might have to change again. Just like, you know, I don't even know how much I trust their data, right? But comparing us to other, you know, districts nationwide, I think is meaningful in many ways. And if we showed, you know, ballpark 10% gain, I think that means something, right? So we're onto something right here. We've accomplished some good things, and I think we just got to figure out how do we keep this thing moving forward and not, you know, just for this rush for cost savings, which I agree we should look at, but just not too hastily, you know, make a bad decision.
Mr. Small.
Couple of things to comment when you're talking about trusting DPI's data. That's what Keith touched on before was the PhDs and the master degrees that have come up with all these things. So that's why we trust them. Although I'd like to say that those are the same people that said Lucy Calkins was good. And we all know that it's not. And then with what you talked on before, Chris, about wanting the facilitators when they're that good, care what they cost. I totally agree with you, but then that takes away from what part of Biff's biggest comment was before, is that we're going to save $1.4 million with salaries. He did say that, you know, I'm sure more half of them we'd be able to get them to do something else, but so that would lead me to believe that the other half, I'm assuming that we're going to let them go, or what that is. I'm not really sure, but I mean, that's a cost savings portion that we were talking about before. So I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, and just to answer back to that, I recognize the fact that at the grade schools where I think these are vital, that's probably about a $600,000 buy. So that's a third of it. Approximately.
My last comment is I haven't been presented a clear plan on how we're gonna get to copy SFA without paying for it. I haven't been told a roadmap or a solution of how we're gonna do that. I've been told that Act 20 is being mandated. We have personal reading plans for students all being distributed this last week, but I haven't been given a clear plan on how we're gonna use the staff that we've invested a lot of money on that are very intelligent. They're probably the best in the state for reading because we've created a bunch of highly skilled, highly paid positions that are the best at teaching reading at our facilities. And I haven't been told how we're going to utilize those people. All I've been hearing about is how we're going to cut wages, cut positions of people without moving forward with how we're going to utilize those great people. So I can't support this at this point because it hasn't been clear to me how we're going to move forward successfully utilizing all the great things from SFA without paying for them anymore. So thank you.
All good? Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah.
You had spoken earlier.
Yeah, so there's just a couple of things, and again, you know, this is acting on the recommendation of our team. A lot of it was hashed out around cost in Act 20, and those things are all true. I do just want to comment of why, you know, in terms of the question about the cart before the horse. In our view, we had to make a decision about SFA before we commit to putting the manpower of all of our staff, who's, again, already have a lot to do, into looking at other curriculum. This board essentially needs to decide whether or not we are going to continue for the third year of SFA. That's really what this decision is about. In terms of not having a replacement before it's terminated, well, I don't think that would be very smart. You're not going to put something in place before you've made a decision on whether this curriculum is what we want to continue doing. I think we've all talked about the positives, and Mr. Phipps just asked what the roadmap would be. The roadmap would be this. We need to continue to make sure all of our schools are using the same curriculum with fidelity, no matter what curriculum that is. We need to make sure all of our schools are setting student performance goals around the results that we want. That include curriculum measures, FastBridge measures that is nationally normed, the measures that we take from our state assessment around the screeners that we're required to use. All of that data is very helpful. And I would agree with Tony. The forward, That's going to change like the wind, but if we establish our own way of measuring our students' progress and success, not just one way, but multiple ways, so that we can be ensured that when we have data to present to the board and our community, that it's backed up by more than just one thing. Third thing is we're going to continue to collaborate as professionals around the learning goals that we have for kids, what we do as professionals when the kids don't learn it, and what we do for the kids that already know it, and helping them enrich and advance. Those are the very key things of SFA that we've learned from. We don't need to pay SFA to do those things. The other thing that is what I would point out, we've talked about the professional development that has existed in our district as a result of SFA, and that has been a positive thing, very positive. We've gotten great professional development. But that professional development, when we're flying folks in from all over the country, comes at a very, very large cost. What I would tell you is right up the road at CESA 7, we enter a contract with them every single year to provide services for us around professional development. Our contract services work pretty simple. We sign up for a number of days, we plan those days with them, they come and they help our folks. What if we were able to provide coaches in our schools that are going to come in and help all of our staff with the implementation of a new curriculum, as well as coaching around best practice? And in terms of, the folks who are helping us out, in terms of our SFA folks, they're phenomenal. They got their jobs because they're the leaders in our district around reading. We're of course going to use them to lead reading in our district. We would be crazy not to. They will have a role in whatever curriculum we have. I would remind you that you'll see this, and it's not all of our staff. In our staff survey, it indicated 48% of them are within their first 2 years. That means we have a lot of teachers who are on some specialized licensing, don't have the experience levels that some of our other teachers have. It is an absolute essential piece that we keep coaches in our district who can support our brand new staff, really, in making sure that their tier 1 practices and helping kids learn how to read are at their best. We can do all that with a new curriculum. And we can do all those things that SFA were really good at with a new curriculum. And that's what we will do. Our team is dedicated, and so are all of our teachers and our principals, to helping our kids learn at higher levels in this district. And that's evident in the scores. Part of it is the efficacy around believing. And SFA gave us some way to believe because we got on the same page, we set some goals, we monitored our progress, and we achieved at higher levels in some cases. We can do that with any curriculum. What we really need to focus on here is a return on investment. And at a time when we need to ask our public to help us meet the needs of our kids in terms of their facilities and other things, and give input on our long-term footprint of education in our district, we also have to show them that we're going to be more fiscally responsible. And in this case, this is an opportunity for us to do that as well. So those are the backbones of our recommendation to you this evening. And I would say there is a roadmap, Mr. Phipps, to make sure all those things are in place.
Thank you. Respond quickly. I just want to highlight that we did have an operational referendum and the community spoke and they wanted to spend money on the correct staffing to support this adjustment so that we could sustain this for the children. So, I mean, the community already spoke that they wanted to support the cost of staff and the professional development so that they could teach kids how to read. So,
thank you. I would just like to point out, unless I missed it, it sounded like we don't have a clear picture of SFA year 3 costs versus potentially Plan B, alternative.
So what I was able to review today and what they sent, what I calculated, by eyeballing this and eyeballing that, was that the total cost would still be near double of what it would cost for 1 year of a new curriculum at the cost of $800 and some odd thousand for the 6 years. Because remember, it's for 6 years. So you really need to divide that $800,000 out by 6 to get the cost of what it costs for 1 year of that curriculum. This obviously still is above that.
By $20,000.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And that's with, remember, a reduction in services. So what we just talked about, the professional development that we would, in a new curriculum, would plan to get from our CISA friends up the road for much cheaper cost than what it would cost to bring in here. We're committed to make sure our professionals have the correct professional development to do their jobs the best they can. And frankly, that's why we didn't consider this idea of a discount, was because we wouldn't then get that training. So what we're saying is we can get the training, but it's going to come from a lot closer for a lot cheaper.
So it's really, if I'm hearing you right, it's only about $20,000 cost differential. Plus we get people closer for the training versus relying on remote training and then just, the staff that's been trained to train, and however you want to, look at it. And then plus all the brain damage that the staff would go through with having to learn a new curriculum.
So just so you know, the CISA folks wouldn't, the only folks that would be, that can give professional development on SFA are from SFA. No one else in Wisconsin has it. They don't know how to train for it. So that necessarily isn't a fair comparison, because the Green Bay folks aren't going to be coming down here and helping us specifically with SFA. They would be able to help us with tier 1 instructional practices, but not actually coaching to the curriculum.
Lee, can I ask just one question?
Yeah.
Is it the Act 20 portion, or what is it that makes us in such a hurry to not finish out this one last year?
My answer would be, it doesn't make any sense to invest in another year of something that does not follow in line with our state requirements. It doesn't make any sense to me to take something that was designed to do what it's been doing in 90 minutes and then somehow now say we are only going to do 60 and expect the same results, because it's designed for 90 for a reason. But the bottom line is if we don't have a state-aligned curriculum, what's happening here in that situation is SFA really just doesn't align, so we have to supplement for what it's not doing. And if we have to supplement on top of the 90 minutes, where's the time for that in the day? And also, somebody asked, Mr. Phipps asked a good question about these professional or these reading plans. Folks, we had to buy these interventions because SFA doesn't have them. So Heidi mentioned SIPs and some of these other ones that we're using. We had to buy those this year because SFA doesn't have interventions. They have tutoring, but they're not that tier 3 intervention that looks at the diagnostic issues of students reading and then intervening. So that's the real crux for me, is that we're not going to even be able to use it the way it was intended to be used. And I wouldn't want to put our results at risk knowing that, when I know that we can get a curriculum that other districts around here, no matter which 3 you pick, I can pick a neighboring district that has it and is doing well with it.
Good.
And then the SFA pieces from it, like I talked about what we would do and make sure we have in place, we would continue to do. We would continue to monitor the progress on each of those assessment times. We will find a way to get that public, to get that with the board so that they're monitoring that as well. So all those things we can do. But to me, that's what it boils down to.
Maybe a silly question, but, we keep talking about that 90 minutes a day and how it's going to, go back to 60 minutes a day now because we have to supplement another half hour worth of stuff. Well, I wasn't a math major, but these kids are in school for more than 90 minutes a day, aren't they? I mean, there's not a half hour the rest of the day that we can't supplement?
Well, our teachers who are in the audience would probably be happy to answer that, but what I would say is this: they even have a hard time finding a half an hour for science and social studies based on all the things that they have in their day to day. In fact, they do quarters. So it's a quarter of science and then a quarter of social studies and a quarter of science. And that's been that way in this district even before the 90-minute reading block.
Ellie, did you want to share something?
Yes, you mentioned this earlier, Chris, and I think it's important to highlight. In the middle schools, we're talking about like finding time right now. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when SFA started, the middle school schedule changed, right? And
Totally.
they lost out on a ton of electives. And electives are what make kids want to go to school. Like, I'm going to school to go be in band or to go learn Spanish. Like, obviously the cores are important, but that's what makes kids want to go to school and enjoy being there. And they're important life skills too, to like know how to be in family and consumer ed and know how to cook, or like I said, taking a Spanish class and learning different cultures. And I know kids that had to choose between getting to do an extra jazz band and getting to take a Spanish class, and they're already getting this time taken away from them that's making them want to go to school, and that's the enjoyable things, and preparing them for the electives that are at high school, because a lot of times you're expected to take these. Most people take Spanish 1 and 2 and 3 in middle school, and then they come into high school so they can get up to Spanish 5 and earn college credit for. You can earn up to 14 college credits for that, but not if you don't take Spanish in middle school. And we're already running short on time, so I think that's one of my things that I think needs to be highlighted more. Chris only mentioned it briefly, is especially in these middle schoolers, like they don't have the time to get all the things that they need.
I think it's important to say, but correct me, I just want to know, are we going to be gaining that time back now too then?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We would be able to go back to the schedule that,
So you'd be eliminating 90 minutes of reading and filling it with electives? I guess it's kind of what I'm asking, like.
No, it's just the way the schedule's structured, had to be structured at the middle school level. So when they did that, they had to take a block or two that was intended for electives and move it into the core, right? So what would it allow us to do based on the time is go back to those equal blocks of time to do the instruction. So that would allow for us to have more opportunities for kids to choose electives at the middle.
The 90 minutes is for elementary.
Right, yeah, it's 60 at middle school. Oh, yeah, they don't do 90 at middle school.
The
Currently.
issue with the schedule at the middle school is because reading has to be taught at the same time. There had to be a schedule manipulation that limited the amount of other elective opportunities because everybody was in reading at the same time so that they could be leveled appropriately.
So where would we be gaining the 90 minutes? I guess what I'm saying, if they don't do it at the middle school now, then.
The elementary school is the 90-minute issue.
Oh, okay.
And Act 20, remember, is only grades K through 3.
Yeah. No question.
Is everybody ready? Okay.
One more question, sorry.
Yes, sir.
So really what we're voting on is just to authorize you guys to cancel the contract. And I guess, is there some sort of time constraints that we're under to cancel the contract, or does that really matter?
It would need.
Can I?
Yep.
The time constraint is that, much like you've all been talking about, the concern about what's next. So the time constraint is, we need time, we need to know where you guys are at with this so that we can pursue our new curriculum and have that in place. Our goal is to, coming up next, I believe, is that adding on that extra professional development day at the end of the year only for elementary, because only elementary have to go through the intense training of a new curriculum. And it is pretty much everybody in the school minus art, music, and phys ed teachers. So the entire school at the elementary will have to attend that training. So we need time to be able to say, if we're making this change, people need time to make a good decision about what's next. And we need time to reserve professional development and things so that we have people in the most optimal situation to do some learning at the end of the school year, have time to go into the summer knowing what the new curriculum is, have it in their hands, and also have a professional development day for them in August before school starts. So it's just the idea that we need time. So that's the time, is having time to make that next decision, if that's where we're at.
So couldn't we not cancel the contract and you guys do your due diligence and then come back to us when you have more numbers? I'm just thinking that kind of forces our hand a little
So
bit.
really,
Cancel the contract.
the thing about it is it just impacts, it's such a huge domino. The amount of changes that we made to put SFA into place, and then the amount of changes that, because it's just so different from anything we've ever done, as far as the time blocks and all of that. Staffing is another big part of it. Right now, we have additional staff that we need to look at and say, it's staffing time right now, what positions do we have open? So there are definitely staffing implications that's part of this timeline as well.
Questions, go ahead.
Okay, so to the question, which is to end the contract with Success for All with the end of this school year. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say no.
Okay.
So we have two.
Who are the names?
Me, Julian, no.
Mr. Spalding, Mr. Bastellato. Okay. Then we move on to, you needed
Yeah,
that
the
vote to
last thing
talk
I
about.
have to report in is to shift the final day school from Thursday, June 12th to Wednesday, June 11th, so that we can have a staff development day on June 12th
At the elementary.
at the elementary schools, yeah, the elementary schools.
This is all because we did the last vote. So I just like to put in there that maybe it says down here on this memo that middle school ELA teachers will also be given a PD day. So there's going to be some tossing around of different levels, school teachers, and I move that we accept a suggestion made by Sarah that we just give the entire district that day so they can all work together.
So your motion is for PD day for everybody. Thursday, is it Thursday? Right?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to have it go across the district.
Can we talk more about that?
Yeah, hang on. I got a motion and a second.
Yeah.
We would need to know mathematically, right, if that's gonna donk us up on instructional time.
I can respond.
Yes, sir, that's why I'm looking at it.
All right. We have 15 days of excess instructional time at the elementary level.
That's why those kids are so smart.
We have 3 days at the high school, and I believe 4 days at the middle school, if my memory serves me correctly.
Okay,
So a little tighter, much tighter at the secondary level than the elementary.
Depending on snow.
So if we do one day.
Depends on how much
Still
snow.
February.
So, depends on how much it snows.
It's never know anymore.
More snow days.
That's
I'm just saying, high school has 3.
I understand.
If they did this, they'd have 2. And of course, who knows? I'm just putting it out there. That's the fact. That's the situation.
We may have to move it later. I don't know. But as of right now, I say we give it to everybody.
Okay, and I know the director wanted to share something.
I guess I would ask why we would give everybody that day when everybody doesn't need that day. That's like a free day. Secondary right now, and this is a very passionate topic for me. Our secondary staff are so fortunate. Every week, every day, they have 90 minutes of PLC and prep time every day.
That's not accurate.
Okay, I'm sorry. What is
It's a
it?
block schedule, so it's not every day.
Okay, how often is it? Monday through Thursday? Middle
Oh,
school is.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday if they're on the A, and then if it's the other way, it's Tuesday.
It's
Thursday, and
45
Friday.
minutes for sure every day. Yes?
And on average, that's what it averages out to, yes.
Yes, and so middle school, it is every day. Middle school
Yes.
has PLC and prep every day. Our elementary teachers have 45 minutes of prep every day. That is all. And we ask them to give up that prep time to do PLC work at least twice a week. So at least twice a week, our elementary teachers go without any prep or any PLC. Our elementary teachers are the ones who have bared the burden of our EL teachers, our reading teachers. They have bared the burden of all of this, like learning. They are the ones who will bear the burden of an additional curriculum. So giving our high school people and our middle school people, so at the middle school, we will make sure that those people that have ELA will have the PD that they need, and they will get that time. But giving everybody a day off is like saying to our elementary people, it doesn't really matter that you guys have to do more work. We're all going to have the day off. So that's very frustrating.
I don't see it like that, to be honest with you. It wasn't asked for as a day off. This is something that she was looking to collaborate and work together with other teachers.
Kids, and our elementary teachers would be literally in a training the entire day. And the people who aren't in the training have a day to do work with their colleagues. So I don't really see why we're giving people a day to work with colleagues when other people are in a training.
I think that's good.
Well, I
You're
would,
all fired up right now,
I
Ms.
would,
Reed.
yes. While I would love an extra day off, the high school already has half days that whole last week of school. Unless you have like an incomplete, you have to stay. And like we have stuff going like if Wednesday was our last day of school, seniors and some juniors still got to stay for grad practice. And I'm also afraid like that was the last day they wouldn't. They would just like go. So like I think the point that Heidi's making is very valid. Even as someone who would very much enjoy that extra day off, it's basically like a 2.5 day week anyway. 2 day, not even 2.5. So that's all. Yeah.
Those high school kids have it made.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned with the fact of giving the students a day off or anything like that. This is specifically for the teachers, and that's where we're going around. They got come back for a grad. I really don't.
Well,
care.
yeah,
It's for teacher development more than anything else.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
And the motion is, please say the motion.
The motion is to make the PD day on the last Thursday in the calendar for everyone, all instructors across the district. Okay?
So if I understand it right, you don't want that.
Yeah.
Yes, she is advising against it. Okay, so all those, you look puzzled, so I don't want to take the vote if you have a question.
I understand the discussion. I'm just wondering if there's a way to say if the reason for this is because of a new curriculum, potentially for elementary, okay?
Yeah.
Could that, instead of just making it mandatory for everybody at the high school and junior high level, could it be if you're working on that new social studies curriculum or if there's a reason to have that day off, would that make more sense than just, that way they get a day to work on it with their colleagues?
And the band teacher can make their kids come in.
Well.
And I'm.
No, I
You're right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I randomly pick something, I don't.
Part of
think
the
band teacher-
rationale that we're also just not thinking about is that our K-3 teachers have to also engage in mandatory Act 20 reading training, which is pretty extensive throughout the summer. So this thought on Heidi's, to speak for Heidi and for those teachers, is that because they already have extensive training requirements throughout the summer, this would be a day to have those curricular tools in their hands so that leading up to that training, they know what resource they're using. They have a little bit of an advantage. Whereas some of those other, curriculum adoptions, you're making a valid point, but they're way less intensive than the science of reading instruction and the literacy instruction rollout at the elementary level.
It's not, Mr. Spoon.
I totally agree, and I think that we're not taking anything away from them. They have a lot to prepare for. But I also think that and you guys are teachers, so it's surprising that it's coming from me, but you act like, man, I get ready for work. I got to be at work at 10 o'clock. I'll have plenty of time to prepare for work. Teachers prepare for their day or their week. In the weekend, I'm fishing and they're already, working on what they're going to do on Monday and Tuesday. These people are spending a lot of time of their own preparing. It's not giving them a day off. I mean, yes, it is. But I have full confidence in the staff that we have and the teachers and any one of them that I've met, whether they even like me or not. I know that their interests are for those students. So if they take that time or if they don't take that time, I just think it should be across the board. That's all I got.
Anything else? Okay, so the motion is to make the PD day universal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Good Lord.
That fails.
Exposed. They're fired.
Now, do we have any other motion?
So the motion is that the final day of school be Thursday, June 12th. the final day of school should be changed from Thursday, June 12th to Wednesday, June 11th. And June 12th be used as a staff day for elementary teachers.
Right, the final instructional day, and I use air quotes because I've done the last day of school way too many times to believe it's an instructional day. So, it's mostly just holding on until that bell. Okay, so we have the motion, do we have a second? Are you seconding? Okay, we have a second?
Who made it? Who made the motion?
The motion was Mr. Trask, second was Mr. Hanson. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. We have an abstention and a silence is assent, which you usually get from me anyway. Having gone through all that, under remarks from the board president, I actually am going to combine that with future meeting dates only to remind you all that tomorrow, if the weather cooperates and all the bad stuff stays down in Sheboygan, there's an interesting safety, security, and concern presentation at Wilson, which at 5 o'clock, which I would encourage you to attend if you can. Thursday, of course, is the event at the Capitol for the awards of distinction from the chamber, and I hope to see many of you there. And then we have the following Thursday, we have facilities and finance, and the following Tuesday after that, a special board meeting with only 2 things on it. Okay, outside of that, I look for a motion to adjourn, so move. We have a second, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Yeah, we didn't do it. That was not bad. We're adjourned, even though I got tricked. That's it.